Hi, this is Carrie Brownstein.
This is DJ Premier.
This is Darren Aronofsky.
You got the RZA right here.
Rose McGowan.
Radiohead.
Aisha Tyler.
Tribe Called Quest.
Fred Armisen.
Prince Paul.
Javier Munoz. Seth Meyers.
Frankie Cosmos.
Flying Lotus.
Hi, we're Chaim, and you're listening to the Talkhouse Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Talkhouse Podcast. I'm Josh Modell. On this week's episode, we've got a popular comedian, podcaster, and actor in conversation with a musician/director who released their first song together earlier this year, Marc Maron and Paige Stark. Now, Maron is, of course, the host of the long-running interview podcast WTF, but that's really just a headline on a long and winding career. He was first known and is still known as a top-tier stand-up comedian whose shows are often discursive explorations of his own psyche while also being wildly funny. He's also an actor, having been a regular on the Netflix series Glow, and a lead in a couple of dramatic movies, including To Leslie, which comes up in this conversation, and Sword of Trust, which was directed by Maron's girlfriend Lynn Shelton, who died unexpectedly in 2020. That fact worked its way into Maron's latest stand-up special, last year's brilliant From Bleak to Dark. Oh, and he also dabbles as a musician, having played guitar in bands in his school days, and keeps it up mostly as a hobby now. That's where singer and songwriter Paige Stark comes in. A friend of Maron's, she recruited him recently to play some quote-unquote searing guitar and duet with her on a cover of Love's 1966 song Signed to DC. Stark has been kicking around the LA music scene for years, most notably as part of the band Tashaki Miyake, whose name is the subject of discussion in this podcast. Stark only recently began releasing music under her own name, including a bunch of singles this year that feature friends like Cherry Glazer, John Bryan, and of course, Marc Maron. Stark is also an actor and director who's working on a narrative short at the moment. Busy, busy. Check out a little bit of the duet she did with Maron on Signed DC.
Look out, Joe, I'm falling. I can't unfold my arms. I've got one foot in the graveyard.
This funny, ranging conversation covers everything from the recording of this duet to Maron's guitar setup to Stark's substance-fueled nights out in Los Angeles. They also clearly love talking about music, dissecting everything from Nick Cave to Bob Dylan and beyond. Enjoy.
This is Talkhouse.
Talkhouse.
Yeah.
Why don't you explain to me what that is, as if you work there?
I don't know if I'm going to do a very good job, but from what I understand, it's a podcast where people talk about stuff.
Yeah.
And there's no moderator.
Right.
Creative people.
They just talk to each other about stuff.
That's right.
So there's no moderator.
No moderator.
So no one's asking questions. They just assume that everybody's got something to talk about?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
We have stuff to talk about.
What are we talking about? We're talking about primarily your new record? Is that how this goes?
I have a new record.
4 songs, an EP.
It's called an EP.
And it's I'm Not Good at Love? Is that the name of it?
It's called Good at Love.
Good at Love.
Yeah.
But isn't the song called I'm Not Good at Love?
No, the song's called Good at Love, but I do say I'm no good at love. But I just think good at love is a more optimistic perspective.
Against the melancholy of all the songs?
Yeah. I'm optimistic at the end of the day.
Are you?
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? Are you optimistic?
Very. You'd be shocked.
Because you have to be?
I'm sort of an optimistic nihilist.
All right. Am I supposed to just buy that you're optimistic, or is it some journey you're on to fight the sucking forces of darkness?
I think that being optimistic is a really radical perspective. It's kind of punk rock.
You think that?
I do.
It's also Christian. So, I guess it could go either way.
I was raised Catholic, really hardcore.
Well, that's dark. But I mean, then I understand why you have to be optimistic. But I didn't play on this record.
No. But we did a song together separately that came out in the cycle.
Right.
A cycle?
Yeah, you said that's why we got to get on this.
Well, I'm a woman, Mark. I'm always in a cycle.
Monthly, but this seemed like a slow turn.
When you release music,
yeah,
they have a system where you're putting out singles and then the whole thing comes out, and that's the cycle, I've been told.
You've been told that?
Mm-hmm.
But what's the best thing that happen? I don't understand music or how people get it. I don't know what music is out there most of the time. I'm 95% removed from almost all music that is happening now.
That's not true. I don't believe you.
It's kind of true.
No. You're always telling me about
old bands.
So that's
weird
cool.
bands. Yeah, I mean, I know up to a certain point, but then people send me new stuff, and I'm like, I don't
know about new stuff.
I don't. When I see these end of the year record lists, more so than not, I don't know 80% of them. But I don't know if that's bad. I don't know if anybody knows 80%.
No,
of
I
them.
think nobody does.
But I'm out of the loop.
There's just a lot of music.
I know. So what happens to this music? What's the best case scenario?
People hear it, I guess.
Yeah.
You gotta just put it out into the wind and see what happens.
It seems like a lot of people are not just putting things into the wind. It seems like there's a lot of personal branding and publicizing that goes on to deliver the goods.
I think that we're forced to do that.
Well, you got no choice. Can't rely on anybody to do publicity for you anymore. It seems like the whole tables have been turned.
I like that, though. I think it's become about songs and about whether or not people like them.
Yeah, but you got to get them into the ears. How do you get them into the ears? What's the best thing that could happen? It gets on a Spotify list?
I mean, the best thing that could happen is that people like it and they hear it and it has its own life that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you've been doing this a long time. Mm-hmm. Like, what do you got? Like 4 records with Tashaki Miyake?
No, I have an EP and 2 records, and we just finished our 3rd full length.
3 records and an EP?
Well, 2 that are out and 1 that's completed. Yeah.
Oh, with Tashaki Miyake?
Yeah. I'm kind of slow. You're fast. You make stuff fast.
What are you talking about? I just talk.
No, you have all these specials. You're always doing stuff. And the last time I saw you, which was like, when was that? It was like months ago.
Uh-huh.
It felt like so developed.
Well, I know how to do what I do, and I'm the only guy up there. So I don't have to be like, do we have to do another one? Do we have to do another take? It all happens. It just gets hammered out on stage. It's only recently that I realized just how much fucking time musicians spend in studios, and that's just the life. That's not the life
That's true.
I live.
I remember when we recorded and I was like, trying to plan it with you, and you're like, I just have like an hour. And I'm like, well, it might take longer than that.
Didn't take much longer.
We were there for 3, I think.
3 hours?
Yeah, you were pretty fast. I set up before you got there and tried to.
Yeah, and
make
then we
it
had to fix the
painless.
vocals because you have a signature vocal sound, and then you put me on a mic that sounded like it was outside.
You didn't like that?
Well, no, we fixed it.
Okay, that wasn't the mic. I was experimenting with different effects to see what it would sound like. And I took all your notes.
What was it? I wasn't really concerned with anything other than it sounded like I was in another room and just like, kind of like...
But you weren't. We did it side by side, which
I know,
was
but it was
kinda
different
old-fashioned.
mics.
But so what? We have different voices. Even if we sang on the same exact mic, it's going to sound different.
Right, but not like technologically different.
I think it was you didn't like the effect I used, which I removed. And
I don't remember what effect was that.
It was like an echoplex or something. I had put some delay on it.
And it created a distance to me.
Yeah, you didn't like the delay.
Right, but
So
you
I-
didn't either, I don't think.
Yeah, I took it off. I was just playing around, and I was actually wondering, had you sang on stuff before?
I don't know if I'd sang on anything on a recorded thing.
I thought you sounded really good.
Yeah, it seemed okay to me. Like, I can only do me. I can't affect anything.
I wish more people would just do themselves.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's good if you can believe in it, or, I'm just fortunate in that, like, there's no other thing I do other than that. So to get confidence to do that means I have to have confidence in just myself, which is fleeting. So if you have some sort of way or gimmick that you can kind of rely on, which can be any number of things, then it might be a little easier if you can hide.
I think everyone's confidence in themselves is fleeting,
I don't know. I've met some pretty confident people.
but you're not in their mind,
But there are some people that are so proficient that, and maybe a little jaded because of that their professionalism overrides their lack of confidence.
Everyone that I know that makes stuff, no matter how good they are, the people that I'm close to have had periods of self-doubt. Even just like, it was the shocking, people that I think are 10 out of 10 at what they do. So,
Yeah. Well, I didn't feel too uptight about the singing
yeah, it was good.
because I think I was, at least in tune.
You
The guitar
were.
playing is a different thing. It seems like whenever I record guitar for things that I kind of blast away. Like there's not a lot of subtlety because I get like a little impatient and a little explosive, and I don't know how to use space that well on guitar. I'm getting better, and I think I did all right on the rhythm on that one. But the lead was pretty explosive and like kind of, I think fit the song, fit the nature of wanting to do drugs
Yeah.
and then doing them.
I think that's a good observation too about space. I think that's an endless thing to think about musically, is like where to put the space.
Yeah. I mean, with rhythm, I can get it more. And with I'm playing with other people, I can understand it more. But like I spend most of my time playing by myself, so I'm filling a lot of air. And space is not the same when I'm just sitting here, blasting away on these guitars.
Right. But I think that your solo on the song we did really worked, and that because also
it was searing.
But
Just searing guitar.
I really liked that review.
Yeah. Searing guitar solo.
That made me smile. I like, because also my drumming is so minimalist, I think it provides a lot of space for the player.
Yeah, no, I think it all did. And just the groove of the song is kind of laid back. Yeah. So I think that the searing guitar was what was necessary to liven that thing up.
I like that your guitar playing is an extension of your personality, or like that the explosiveness or all that stuff. I think that I love stuff like that. I love being able to feel people's personality in their instrumentation.
Well, I think that for me, that comes from being extremely limited.
But a lot of great players are limited. I mean,
I'm not saying I'm a great player, but I've grown to appreciate that. That, most of the great leads that one likes in their life outside of virtuoso kind of, game-changing players, it's all personality.
I think it's...
And tone.
Yeah, personality.
Tone, man.
Tone zone. You got to get in the tone zone.
Yeah.
And you got to have...
People say the tone is in your fingers. I don't believe it.
I don't know. I think a big part of that is true.
Huh.
I think so. Because it's, it's electricity. So like when you're dealing with like pickups and guitars, you're dealing with a magnetic field and electricity.
Yeah.
And so like your own electricity from your body is affecting the way that it's received through this pickup.
Is that science or is that speculation?
No, that's science. Like Luke, for example, my bandmate who we did that track with, every single instrument that he plays, there's a buzz. And we can never track the buzz to a cable or an amp. It's like his hands create a buzz.
Oh, huh. You sure?
Yeah. And some people, I mean, this isn't an electrical thing, but some people have a type of sweat that's like acidic. And the finish on old guitars, it melts the finish. So certain people's hand sweat can't touch old guitars, or it will melt that kind of, I don't know what that stuff is called, but you know what I'm talking about.
Lacquer, veneer?
That lacquer that's on older instruments that's probably toxic and doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
So they can't touch the guitar?
Well, their sweat will melt the
Eventually
finish.
The guitar wears down. I guess that's true. I just know that, I don't play professionally. But I played on another record or two.
It's so weird that you say you don't play professionally because you play shows with your...
That's a new thing, though.
I know, but it's still like a ticketed show that... I mean, I went to one of those.
Yeah.
Like it was a full room at Largo, and you guys were playing music, so...
It was all right.
I think that Largo is a professional venue, so technically...
Yeah, but he's just indulging me.
Oh, well,
those guys like playing with me, though. I don't really know why, but they... I guess I'm an okay front guy.
You're fun to play music with.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Why?
I think because you have this energy that's we all had when we were younger and playing in bands with our friends, and there wasn't like an expectation.
Yeah.
Because maybe, like you keep saying, you're not a professional.
Yeah, I think I've never wanted to lose that because, and that's one of the reasons I never set out to be, a musician. Other than what I do. I was in a couple bands.
You've done it a long time, though.
No, I play. I've never put it down, and I think I've gotten better over time. But to wait, so many years, really 20 or 30 years, more than that, to actually lock in with some guys who knew what they were doing. I mean, that's a long time to wait after playing guitar that long.
I think it's cool.
Probably 40 years. I mean, I've played here and there with like other comics and stuff, but that always turns into a disaster. I have no patience for it.
It's funny because to me, the discipline of comedy is so intense. You're like almost every night at the Comedy Store.
Yeah, and then I go out on the road. Yeah, but not unlike anything else. I mean, once you're comfortable in the craft, you have a lot of leeway. You're not going to fall totally.
Right, but it's like, that's like the Beatles in Hamburg or something. Like most musicians don't do that where they're playing every night and
you
testing
mean in front
out.
of people?
Yeah, because I think about that. I think, man, if I was like playing every night, you would really know what songs worked and didn't, and you'd discover things. But most musicians don't play.
But I think the ones at work do.
When you're on tour, yes, but like not when you're at home. Like what I'm saying is not only are you playing every night, like when you go on tour, like you do it when you're home.
To be engaged with other people in a live situation over and over again. So you become one sort of symbiotic thing.
Yeah.
I mean that happens for a lot of bands. I mean, some bands they just have that.
Yeah.
I mean, but it seems like if you do the studio correctly and not like be in other places, that's what happens. I mean, that's what you're working towards, isn't it?
I think so, but I think it's really different to be in front of an audience all the time like that.
Yes, like the Beatles were, but then they stopped doing that entirely.
Yeah.
And just became studio rats for years.
Of course, but I think that
that locked it in. That and amphetamine, I think. Seriously.
I know. I agree.
I think it just cracked their brains open and they became one thing.
Yeah.
The shorthand between those guys is kind of insane.
I agree. That watching that doc was
It's crazy.
It was so crazy. When I was watching that thing, there was like these moments where they would just spontaneously start singing together that would just make me cry.
What was interesting though is that they started playing within a couple of years of rock and roll happening.
It's true.
So like it was all right there. So all those old songs that kind of are, classics or oldies now were just right at the tip of their brains all the time.
I like the story of them like traveling to some guy that would teach them the chords. You know that story? Like there was a guy that like knew the chords that they didn't know. And they would go to the guy and he would show them the chords. Yeah,
you need somebody to show you things. Jimmy Vivino showed me a lot of things over the years. Like I do Conan O'Brien's show, and once he knew I played guitar for years, he would always leave a guitar in my dressing room. And then he would show me licks. And like that, in the last decade or two, changed my playing a lot. And then he played with me. That was crazy.
That's right. I don't think he was playing with you when I saw you, though.
No, he started the band. Well, he started with us and kind of held it together. But he let me play with him once out there in the valley at some blues thing. And then we played at some other thing. Him and me and Jimmy Vaughn played at the Soho Sessions. And I fucked it up. I fucked up a Dylan song. I have a hard time remembering songs and when the chords change. And then also, doing the singing. And I just like when I fuck up, I can't, land back correct so quickly. I felt shitty about that. But yeah, and he let me, I played on Conan once. I played on Jimmy Fallon recently. He let me play with the Roots.
That's fun.
Briefly. I played with Patti Smith out at Pappy and Harriet's.
That's right. That's amazing. She's amazing.
Yeah, but I always feel like, are you sure? Why, you know what I mean? Like, but I did all right.
I saw her out at Pappy's, but it was a different gig.
Yeah, it was very windy and it was still COVID and, she was, paranoid and, we couldn't really talk because of masks.
It was the outside stage.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I saw her too, and it was also very windy.
Yeah, it was a little daunting, but like I just played that one song, "The People Have the Power."
Nice.
But I think Jimmy's mostly responsible for helping me gain confidence in the playing.
It's important to have mentors.
Yeah, but I could never have the discipline to sort of, work out all the chords or learn songs properly. It's sort of a drag. And I always think that, maybe I'll get it or I'll try. But then when I learn the songs, if you're not playing the songs, you're going to forget them again. And then you have to go back to them. Like if you're not in a regular repertoire with, with the stuff that you like, you have to relearn them all the time, or at least I do.
I think that the more you do it, the easier that it will get because you'll start to see that almost all the songs are the same.
I don't find that to be true. Sometimes chords are all fucking weird and different,
Sometimes
and I
are.
don't know the chords.
It's true. Sometimes they are weird, but I feel like the more songs I learn, the more I'm like, oh, and then there's that part and this part, and it's similar,
I guess. I mean, when we play Grateful Dead songs or whatever.
Well, that's a whole other thing. That's a lot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we did Wharf Rat and we got through it and it worked out pretty good. I think it changed my drummer's brain. He was not into it. And then all of a sudden he was like, let's do that again.
Yeah,
go on the psychedelic trip.
Well, those songs have a lot going on.
They do, but it's still just a few. And
it's true.
That was sort of mind-blowing for me to like realize. Like even the Stones, like it's just like the four guys. And they're doing that thing.
It's magic.
Yeah, well, that's what it is. It's magic. And, maybe you can find that, but I don't imagine most people do.
Well, it's the quest. That's what you're looking for, that sort of transcendent experience.
Yeah.
Isn't it similar to comedy?
No.
Not at all? You're not looking for that with like a performance or with the audience?
No. I think that like for me, because I write on stage and I improvise, that when something happens or it comes to me on stage, there's a magic in that. But a lot of times the audience doesn't know, but I know. And that's sort of like the delivery. That's like a package from the beyond. I didn't write it down. I didn't think about it previously. And then it just sort of delivered. It was delivered during a show.
Do you do all your writing on stage?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of outline things and I seem to just work through them. I don't really know what the process is. An outline and I have ideas. Sometimes they kind of come together, but mostly it's, I know I've got a funny idea and then I get a couple of laughs with it and then it just sort of grows. Not everybody does it like that. A lot of people write it out.
I don't know that many comedians. I'm surrounded by musicians and filmmakers, so it feels like a mysterious thing to me.
I guess. I mean, I think it's demystified for me, and there's so many fucking people doing both things, all things now.
Yeah, it's true.
That it's kind of diluted the genius pool somehow.
Yeah, but not everyone is good at it.
I know, so they should stop.
Oh, God.
Because they're cluttering the field. But
they say the cream rises to the top.
I don't know. Sometimes it rises to the middle and makes all the money.
It's true. That happens too. It's odd. You can never predict what people will respond to. I really liked the last show of yours that I saw, though. I really was struck by some of the moments.
We're at Dynasty?
Yeah, like we were talking about trauma, and you were saying that, the babysitter incident
babysitter bit,
was less traumatic than your mom not folding the lunch bag correctly. And
over and over again.
I so related to that.
Well, yeah, I mean, trauma is one of those things like, it's a real buzzy word right now, but I just started to think about it, and it has something to do with, self-victimization or vulnerability that was forced upon you. And then, you can either live your life in relation to that or hold on to that as being defining in terms of, who you are, or else like a lot of times you're like, oh yeah, I remember that. And then you got to think it through or process it to figure out whether or not it is defining or not.
I mean, those moments when you're a child and you're developing your identity and the way that you see yourself through your parents and the things that your parents do that you're embarrassed of, I feel like for me at least, have stayed with me my entire life.
Yeah, your parents are embarrassing.
They're so embarrassing, even if you love them.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Like, I think I felt something. I definitely felt connected.
Yeah, I mean, that bit, like, really struck me.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to do, I guess.
I like that about your stuff, that some of it's very, very funny in the moment.
Yeah.
It's laugh out loud funny. And it's also stuff where I go, whoa, and I think about it later.
Yeah.
It really led me to thinking.
That's the best I can do.
I feel bad saying it, but you're so entertaining when you're like...
freaking out?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, people like it.
You know that they like it.
Brad Pitt's a big fan.
I have no doubt.
Of Maron freaking out.
Oh, he's correct.
I need to get more of that back in the act. That's the rawness in comedy that I need to get back. But no, I've had this haunting thing because I watched some clip of me from years ago. It was me and Greg Proops, who's a comic. And we were doing some experiment. We were co-hosting a show. And he's a very sort of like improv-y, reference-driven, all these different references. And I know what they are, but my brain doesn't work like that. My brain can only work from my point of view. So he's talking about the Bible and making some riff about Moses and this and that and the commandments or whatever. And I can only go to like, well, if I'd gotten the commandments, so all this first person shit, sometimes I think hobbles me because I don't have enough, references for people to hang on to. I'm pretty broad stroke, personal feelings, ideas driven, not reference driven. And even though I get all the references, I don't integrate them.
You have references.
A few, but I'm not that kind of comic.
But I think that's okay. It seems like it's working for you.
Kinda. I mean, I do all right.
You do.
And it's like with guitar too. Like guitar, I mean, I know what weird guitar playing sounds like. I know what it sounds like to sort of take chances on a guitar, or get, trippy or get out there or whatever. And I listen to a lot of music.
You have excellent taste in the guitar players that you love. You love Peter Green.
Peter Green's great. And it's unexplained.
Keith.
Yeah, Keith is good. Yeah.
Those are like...
Yeah, those are good ones.
Those are really good ones.
Yeah, but, then you got some Hound Dog Taylor.
That's also great.
Yeah, and Magic Sam. But
you like Sterling?
I do like Sterling. But like a lot of that stuff, like, these people, they're like, doing weird tunings and they're like, they're playing guitars that have been altered. And I'm like, I never even think to do that. Why would I change the pickups on my guitar? And people do it all the time.
Well,
you got to have a lot of time to think about sound.
We go back to the thing we were talking about earlier about is the sound, the tone in your fingers. The reason that people change pickups is because they sound different. So like,
I know that.
But like with
the guitar,
I have guitars
that sound different.
I know, but some pickups sound really magical.
Yeah, but you got to think like, okay, this pickup's not working for me. And like, I have all these different guitars, and they all sound different, and I know what they sound like, but I don't have one guitar. Like I just got a Telecaster, an old one, 74, 74 Tele Custom or something with the humbucker like Keith's.
Yeah.
And it sounds great. And I wouldn't think like, well, I'm gonna get a different humbucker sound for this because I need this thing.
I think sometimes it also can have to do with like if you find an instrument that you love to play.
Yeah.
Just the way it feels in your hands. Like the neck feels really good, the action feels really good, and maybe like the bridge pickup sucks. So then you would just swap it out and then you have an instrument you love, especially with older instruments. I mean, I have a sort of Frankenstein guitar where I swapped out a pickup. And I really like this guitar because I broke my finger in a mosh pit when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And so I can't bend that finger all the way. So it's better for me if it's not too wide of a neck and if the action is really gentle.
Yeah.
So I look for that in guitars, and if it's more about how they feel to me. So if it doesn't sound right, I'll change out a pickup.
Right, as opposed to change a guitar because you like the guitar too much?
Yeah, because I have this sort of limitation with my fretting hand. I have to play something that I can play.
Yeah, some guitars are harder to play than others, I guess. I mean, I'm a little disappointed in some of these guitars, and I
don't like pedals. It's all so confusing to me.
Well,
I appreciate musicians, who have all these pedals because I understand that they bring something to the game, but you really got to sit around and nerd out on all that shit to get the hang of it.
I don't think you have to use pedals. I mean, Neil doesn't use pedals.
Yeah, but he's also got this amp that he doesn't know if it's going to blow up or not.
But that's
it's all very specific.
I have this amp that is a mid-century amp, and the speakers have blown up so many times. I keep replacing them, and it's hard to find old speakers.
Yeah.
And they just, because what it is that it's just running so hot that it's almost blowing up all the time.
Yeah.
And that's what creates that tone, and that is it's a similar thing with Neil, and that's why I liked the amp, because it kind of had a Neil sound.
Yeah, like with those P90s, I can get that Neil sound. I know he's using some bigger version of these.
Yeah, this amp I have is crazy, though. I should bring it over sometime. It's wild.
So, like, how long you been in music?
I guess I started performing like professionally in like maybe like 2007 or something like that.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
What band were you in then?
Well, at first I was doing some shows with Taylor Goldsmith from Dawes. Like we were singing together.
Yeah.
There was this place on Hillhurst called Tangier.
Yeah.
And it was a really cool place.
I remember that place.
Yeah, I saw Ramblin' Jack Elliott there. Gillian Welch and Dave Rawlings used to play there. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And I just did a couple gigs with Taylor because it was when Blake had left the band and Griffin was still in high school. So he was kind of in between Dawes and Simon Dawes. And we just did a couple shows together. And this guy saw us singing at the Standard. It was so bizarre, and offered me to open for him at the El Rey. And so that was like that moment in time where I was like, oh shit, I should probably like have a set. And so I took that as like a sign from the universe that I should, get serious.
Yeah.
And then once I got serious, things started coming together. I used to have a band called Stone Darling. It was a all-girl folk band.
What happened to them?
Well, the drummer became like a pop star, and one of the singers, she's a television producer, and so she got really busy doing all this stuff. And the bass player still makes music, so she's a music supervisor and also has a band. And it just, I don't know, like we were young, and you know how bands are. It just kind of, the moment that things started to go well, everyone started fighting, and we kind of like imploded before anything really happened.
So you're just kicking around Hollywood as a young musician girl?
Yeah.
Going all the parties and stuff?
Oh my God, yeah. I went to a lot of parties.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, like Hollywood out of control.
So, yes.
And you survived that?
I mean, I can't believe I survived it. Barely.
Why? What happened?
I got really into drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
And just...
What, in your 20s?
Yeah. And I got wind of this like after hours circuit where I could basically go to a normal bar with my friends who were normal people. That's how it would start,
Yeah.
And then they would go home because they have jobs and lives and they're building their future. And then I would meet up with my party friends and go to the next bar. And then when that bar closed, we would go to the after hours. And then when the after hours closed, we'd go to the illegal poker game. And I would like win my rent money playing poker with people on like drugs and alcohol. I would be the most sober people,
right?
Me and my friends, and we'd win money, and then go to the drawing room at 6 a.m. and it was crazy.
What was that?
It's a bar that opens at 6 a.m.
It was exhausting.
It was so exhausting. And it was not sustainable. And so then I had to stop.
And you were playing music through all that time, or did it stifle your music career?
It stifled it. For sure.
Yeah?
I think that was...
For years?
Yeah. But once I came to my senses and realized that was so crazy, then things, now things are coming back on track.
When did you come to your senses?
Like 2016.
Wow, not that long ago.
Not that long ago.
Oh my God, it's a long run.
Yeah. It was a wild...
But wait, was Tashaki Miyake together yet?
Yeah, we started as a recording project in like 2011, and that's when it started to happen.
Why that name again?
So...
It's hard to remember.
I was... yes, I know. You've told me your thoughts on that.
I know, but now we're on the record.
Everyone has thoughts on it. If I could go back in time and change it to a name that makes more sense with the music, I'd probably do that. Like Dana was actually the only person who ever understood the reference of Takashi Miike, Dana Gould. And he was like, why did you name your band that?
Yeah.
Those movies are scary.
Yeah.
And the answer to that question is when Luke and I met, we were both obsessed with Takashi Miike's movies.
Yeah.
So I mispronounced his name one time when I was a little tipsy, and I thought that was a funny name for a band because I always liked the idea of a band having a name that sounded like a person's name.
Yeah.
And I guess I should have maybe just made it more easy to remember. But I also like the name.
Yeah. I like it all right. I just can't remember it.
But also it's very easy to Google.
Right. They're good records.
Thank you.
They're a little different sound than the new one.
Yeah, I was trying to make, with my solo stuff, it's a bit, I don't know, it's more personal and I don't have to like run anything by anyone else. So it's kind of like just purely my choices.
It took you a long time though, huh?
Yeah.
To record under your name.
Well, I started making those recordings a really long time ago. I'm just very slow.
What is that about though? Is it just insecurity? What is it?
No, I don't have an excellent concept of time.
So it's just time, like years?
Years go by and I don't realize it totally because I'm always doing stuff. I'm always making stuff.
What happened to the movie I'm supposed to be in?
Well, Mark, I told you I lost the funding and I've been trying to re-raise it.
Did you tell me that? I thought you couldn't get the actress who was 100 years old.
Both things happened at once. There was two things going on.
Yeah.
Well, we can talk about that off the record.
That's a creative endeavor.
It is.
Film directing.
Yes, and I'm very excited about it. And I was really excited to have you in something. And you're one of my favorite actors.
Come on.
Yes, you are. You have to accept it. You're bad at accepting these compliments.
It's just when I look at myself acting, I'm like, all right, it's okay.
You know what, my friend...
I always think like, why can't you... There's 100 actors you could get.
Well, who are you to tell me what I am allowed to like?
But even when I get cast in things, I'm like, really? Me? I mean, there's so many guys.
No, this is a you problem. You're going to have to just sort this out within yourself because actually, I was thinking about this because I don't know if that was the last time I saw you when you were talking about the show you're going to do.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, well, yeah, of course they really would love to have you because the pairing is so good with you and Owen Wilson. And I was thinking like if I was a director and I wanted to cast you two and you didn't want to do it, who would I cast instead? Like who would be you if not you? Like there is no one.
Once you picture me, I guess it's hard to shake that.
It's really hard. There's not like a backup. you have so much going on and you can be very sweet. Like in To Leslie, I thought you brought such like a sweet quality.
Yeah.
And I hadn't really seen you as sweet as that before. So that was really cool to see.
Well, in my real life, I've got to protect myself. I have to,
but I'm talking about on screen.
I got to keep the wall up. On screen, what have I got to lose?
But I hadn't seen you on screen in a role like that.
Yeah.
But also you have like the heaviness and there's always this kind of like angsty thing, which I feel like, how could you not have that and be alive right now? So having that like just going underneath whatever else is going on is interesting. All acting is, I think, really good actors just allow things to move through them with their filter.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I appreciate that. I'm trying to look at this as an opportunity to do something with whatever this craft is. I try to do all the things that I've had actors tell me they do. And a lot of times, I'll do all those things, and then I just sort of I'm just kind of being me in a way, but I guess you can't really avoid that.
Yeah, but I think that's what everyone does.
No, I know. I think so, except for the Transformers.
But the Transformers, it's still them.
It is. Yeah, that's true.
It's them like through that filter of the accent and the character and the physicality. And it's just another level. I'm about to go do a couple days on a movie in New York. It's one of my friend's debut features. I'm really excited.
Oh, good.
Yeah, but it is a lot of waiting around.
And the trailers are never comfortable. The couch is never good. You can't sleep in them. That horrible fake leather. It's almost like they do it on purpose. It's some sort of, kind of deceiving torture chamber.
This could be a good time to
TVs don't work.
Work on your guitar.
DVD doesn't work. Nothing works in there. There's remotes that don't do anything.
Just maybe this is the moment where you get really into guitar.
I think that, but then I'll go on YouTube. Look, I just started tuning one of the guitars in an open G without the bottom string, like Keith does. And then you go online and, you can learn how to play Can't You Hear Me Knockin' the way Keith does. And there's no other way to play it, really. I could never figure it out. And then you play it with that tuning and those pickups, and it's like, oh, this is exactly it.
Yeah. Well, that could be your trailer waiting vibe.
But I think the fact that I don't know songs the way they're supposed to be played keeps the rawness alive.
That's one perspective. I also think it can be, more sort of like the Picasso thing where he really learned how to do it. He could paint realistically and understood light and all that stuff, but then breaking through that and creating your own thing.
I'm never going to be that guy. I'm never going to have the discipline to sort of I played guitar in high school and I played with guys. We had a couple bands, but I think we only knew 4 or 5 songs. It was ridiculous.
Are there recordings of this?
There is a recording that my buddy Dean, I feel like we might have used it on the podcast. My buddy Dean, when I was in junior high, we played.
I love people's junior high school, childhood bands are my favorite.
Well, I wrote a song for this girl, Jessica, and we played it, and then her boyfriend punched me in the stomach.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Wow, it must have been pretty good.
Oh, it was okay. It was kind of the chords they were a lot like Photograph by Ringo Starr, which is a great song, which I've played live now.
How did Jessica feel about it?
She's kind of touched, didn't know what to do with it. That's always been my effect on people. What do I do with all this intensity and focus of this needy guy? So,
yeah.
But yeah, we got it together. We played it at an assembly.
Nice.
At the school.
Assembly.
Yeah. We played a couple parties. I think we played Youngblood, Bad Company's version of it. And then I was with some other guys, with a guy who was a really good guitar player. I think we did Taking Care of Business. We did Sweet Emotion, kind of, Tush by ZZ Top. But I was never that proficient, never that confident. I remember I auditioned for a band once that was this kind of punk band. I made such a fool out of myself. I only know at that time, it's like I just only knew Chuck Berry songs and how to play 1-4-5 shit. And
That's enough?
Yeah, but not for this band. They were real hoity-toity fuckfaces. And they came to my house and they were like, what can you play? And I'm like, I can do this. And they're like, what else? I'm like, nothing else.
God. Wow.
And so we'd never locked in as a band long enough to gig or do real repertoire songs.
Yeah.
I remember one time It was a goofy band. We were going to play at this high school party, and our bass player, Lee Danziger, like he was a goofy guy, but he couldn't play that night. So my buddy Dave had this friend Monty, who was some sort of, hallucinogenic drug fiend bass player. And, he's like, I can handle it, and we go to this gig, and he brings this monstrosity of a bass amp, and we get through like two of like a ZZ Top song or whatever. And then we like take a break after 2 songs so we could drink beer and try to make out with girls. And then he just like ends up just out of nowhere, this cacophony of insanity starts coming from where we were playing. It's just Monty up there with his bass amp and his effects. He did like 10 or 15 minutes of like, insane psychedelic, everyone was like, what the fuck is happening? And that was sort of the end of that gig.
Wow.
Yeah, in retrospect, it was pretty cool. I was fortunate in that I worked up by the university when I was in high school, and there was a record store next door, and I really got turned on to a lot of different stuff by the different types of people that worked at the record store. Like Eno and Noise Music and Fred Frith and The Residents and like all that kind of fringy kind of weird shit.
I miss that feeling of being young and discovering music and it being like very mysterious, because now like nothing is mysterious, it's just everywhere. And I remember like that feeling before kind of the internet blew up. And
I still get it. I know it's everywhere, but someone's got to still tell you about it. Like Matt Sweeney told me about this guy, Terry Stamp. I didn't know who that guy was. No one knows who he is. And he's got these 2 or 3 records out, and they're wild. I mean, the guitar playing is wild, but not in a way that's like, flashy.
Yeah.
It's just there's something about the guy. And he sent me one song, and I'm like, who the fuck? On a YouTube video. And I'm like, I had to go track down the record, and it was like $140 because you can't find those records anymore. But now I have them.
Yeah. Some musicians are really open and they stay excited, and then some get kind of like over it and like bitter. And I guess I just haven't been around that energy where people are like sending me new music lately.
Yeah, I go in and out of it. Sweeney was sending me a lot of stuff. He turned me on to Modu Mokhtar, which is pretty good. That Tanarin or like whatever
I don't
that.
know it. I've been really into instrumental music lately.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
like who?
I've been listening to a lot of older music. Like I'm like a grandpa. I've gone deep into like, I mean, I liked this kind of music as a kid, the big band, because my grandparents would listen to it. But I've just been really in a space of like instrumental big band, like Artie Shaw.
Oh, he's the best.
It just makes me feel really good.
Yeah, man. It's like it's like rock and roll.
It really is. I really like Teddy Wilson, like that Billie Holiday band with Teddy Wilson. And then I found some recordings of just him and like some Fats Waller stuff. Sometimes there's vocals on it, but I really like the feeling of that music, the swing, the way it swings.
Oh yeah, and there's so many musicians, and it, like, could you imagine being in a room with that stuff? I mean, that's what they used to go to. The old folks, that was pop music, and they go
Glenn
dance.
Miller. I'm in this kind of grandpa zone right now.
Yeah, but like, just if you just, because I was listening to those Artie Shaw records a lot years ago. I thought he was an interesting character because he's a real badass and a real asshole.
Yeah,
but kind of like. He knew how to rock.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, the idea of being in a room with that many musicians on a bandstand, it's fucking nuts.
I know. It's incredible.
It must have been so loud.
I don't know, because I don't think they played that loud. I think that people really understood dynamics back then.
Well, I mean, amplification was relatively new, so you had like some of the guitars were amplified, but it was to meet the level of the horns. But
true.
I mean, that many horns, dude. I mean, it's going to be pretty loud.
But rooms were also like one of the things that's hard for me in the modern world.
Yeah,
is that everywhere you go is like steel and glass, and there's no sound.
I'm weird about music. I'm weird about comedy with sound. I'm very picky.
Right. Well, just the bathroom, but yeah, everywhere is very loud. And I think back in the day,
was warmer.
Well, yeah. They used to have carpeted floors, and that old wallpaper was kind of like fabric.
Yeah.
So I think spaces like had, they weren't as loud. Like
maybe. Some of them boom pretty hard, man. You ever been to that Kane Ballroom in Tulsa?
No.
Where all the Bob Wills and the bluegrass stuff started? All the old country guys went through there. That place is like a big fucking speaker. I saw Patti Smith there when the Bob Dylan Center opened.
Oh, cool. I haven't spent a lot of time in Tulsa.
Well, yeah, I mean, you'd have to have a reason to go to Tulsa, but maybe you toured there. But that Kane Ballroom's pretty insane. I mean, you go to those old theaters, if they don't fuck them up by making them rock clubs, and they've still got some soul to them, some of them are acoustically perfect.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're in an acoustically perfect hall and you've got all those horns going, it's going to be loud, dude.
But there would also be probably more people. I would love to go somewhere and that's the music, like, you know, just some beautiful music and people dancing. It's sad to me that didn't stick.
I don't know. I guess it didn't stick, but like beautiful music. But Artie Shaw, he jammed. I mean, there's some raucous fucking swing numbers.
Absolutely.
A lot of those swing guys, it was crazy. The rhythms and the intensity. I mean, they weren't fucking around.
No, I just find it very beautiful and like, you know, it's just different than like you're saying that was the club. Like that was like the club.
Yeah.
The club now is a little different.
Yeah, I don't even know what that means. I don't know what going to the club means.
You never went to the club?
No, I didn't.
Never once?
I spent my whole life in, comedy rooms.
You never went like, no one ever, like no girl ever like dragged you to a nightclub to go dancing?
Yeah, maybe in college. There was a couple gay clubs in college at 1270. And then there was like the ones on Lansdowne Street. I think one was called 9. I know what that was like, but it was never that fun to me.
It's not fun. It's just loud.
Yeah. But dancing was okay. But I spent so much time, working in my clubs, which were not they were a sadder affair. Even in the early aughts and all that New York music going on, I missed it. I'm not a huge live music guy. It's like it takes a lot to get me out.
Really?
Yeah.
What's your beef with live music?
Goes on too long.
I agree.
And, sometimes you got to wait too long for people to get their shit together. I think the last live show I went to was that Willie Nelson birthday show, and that was pretty fucking great.
I'm so jealous.
But it was old timers,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of new bands that I've seen, or like I went and saw Ty Segall somewhere on one of his projects down at that place, the Echoplex. Mm-hmm. That was okay. It was loud, but it's like it's a lot of people standing around.
I don't like standing. I like to sit in a seat.
Yeah, it's not terrible to stand for those kind of shows, but no one's really moving.
I like to sit in a chair.
Sure. You get old, you want to sit in a chair. I went to see that Nick Cave do his burlesque show or whatever the fuck that was. Not burlesque. What's the other word? Cabaret show, I guess you would call it.
Was it just him and a piano?
Yeah, basically, and the bass player from Radiohead, I think.
Oh, that's cool.
It was okay. You got to be a pretty deep Nick Cave fan to put up with that shit for an hour and 45 minutes.
I'm a pretty deep Nick Cave fan.
Well, you should have gone.
I've seen him a lot of times, so I didn't see him the last time he was in town. I really like the Bad Seeds.
Oh, they're a great band.
Yeah.
But this is just him sort of reimagining all his old songs for just piano and the bass, and he yammers on a bit in between, doing little jokes and things. It's really for the fans. And I liked watching it for, an hour, but then I had to go.
It is a lot when people play for like 2 hours.
Saw Angel Olsen. She was in the same venue as me in Ireland the night before, and I got there and I was loopy, and I texted Sharon Van Etten, and I was like, Angel Olsen, she's at the same venue as me. Sharon's in the States. I want to go see the show, and she set me up. I don't think I met Angel though, but I did enjoy that show.
She's great.
That was good. Same thing happened in Dublin with Richard Thompson.
That's exciting.
He was there the night before me, and I had interviewed him already, so I went backstage and he let me play his Telecaster for a second. I don't know if he let me play it, but in my mind he did. I don't know how he does what he does. If you've ever seen him live, like he's got that chip on his shoulder.
He's amazing.
Of a genius who has gone, I think underappreciated, except by a certain type of person. Like those Richard and Linda albums are great.
Yes.
But all his solo stuff is great, but it didn't lock in, but he's got a lot of fans. But when he does a solo show and there's points where he's like, you want to see guitar playing? you'll just sit there and go like, what the fuck is happening? I get into these, rabbit holes with bands, and then old bands, and I'll get all their records and I'll go through a few weeks with it, and then it kind of drifts.
I spent like several years of my life exclusively listening to Bob Dylan.
Yeah, but that seems like a lot of Bob Dylan. Couldn't you work that in?
There was other things that would come in, but I was young and I was just really into Bob Dylan. He was just my guy for a minute. Like I didn't want to listen to anything else.
I can see how that would be. I did a lot of Dylan.
I think most people do.
I don't know. Some people don't care.
Well,
but
music people.
But I'm one of the guys that was sort of like, not long ago I was like, how come no one is talking about Planet Waves enough?
I love Planet Waves.
Yeah, but it's not on the big list, man.
I love Planet Waves.
A lot of people just like, go right by it. And it's like, it's fucking, he only did 2 records with the band outside of the live one. So that's a band record.
Yeah.
And you can listen to all the band records. That's all well and good. But Planet Waves is a band record.
Yeah. Planet Waves is in my top 5 Dylan.
Yeah, it's the best.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of which Dylan I listen to the most.
I love Blood on the Tracks. I know that's like an obvious choice, but...
I like that too, but I probably listen to Blonde on Blonde more.
Blonde on Blonde is iconic, obviously.
It's a good record. I listen to Desire a lot.
Desire's awesome.
There's a lot of odd Dylan records.
I like Oh Mercy. I like all of his records almost. I mean, I think he's really interesting. So even if it's not the best record...
Yeah, the last one annoyed me.
Mm-hmm. What annoyed you about it?
That really long song.
Just because it was long?
I don't know. Just because, like, you know, why's he got to mention Don Henley?
That's what upset you.
Yeah. And also it was long.
What's your beef with Don Henley?
I just don't know why Bob Dylan has to mention Don Henley. What? I got nothing against Dylan. You know, there are just moments I have where it's like, you know, you can stop.
But maybe he can't.
No, I know. I accept that.
I think that
it's not a personal affront. There's a couple good songs on all the records.
Maybe that's what's keeping him going. You know, I went to
clearly. I mean, you know, you have a career like he has, and if you want to, you know, die on a bus, okay.
I went to his show at the Pantages the last time he was in town, and you know, it was in and out like throughout different songs. But then he would be really in, and at one point he did this little dance, and that was enough for me. I felt happy.
Yeah, well, there are certain people that love these old fucks, and you know,
them.
and it's just like as they slowly start to kind of crumble, you look for these moments that are unique to them in this particular point in their life, and it's rewarding.
I love them. I
do too. I mean, look, I'm excited when Keith can hit the chord.
I love Keith. I love Dylan. I got my tickets to see Neil at the Bowl in September. I go see the guys. I got to see them. Because you never know. It could be the last.
I know. I saw Petty on the last Hollywood Bowl shows.
I did.
Second to the last.
I was there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very fortunate. I saw them a lot of times.
Yeah.
And they're incredible.
Oh, yeah. You know who else is incredible? X.
Yeah. I've seen X too.
I just saw them at the last gig of their tour at the Troubadour, I think it was. And it was like crazy.
They're incredible.
Just the same as they always were.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
So who produced this new record?
John Bryan.
He produced these 4 songs?
Yeah, some of them, there was one song that started as a demo.
Right.
And I passed it off to him and he finished it. And then another that I started at a studio, but he was there. But there was another producer involved and he just finished those 2.
Yeah.
And then the other 2 we started from scratch.
And you've known him a long time?
So long.
And what does he bring to it?
I mean...
Like instrumentally, does he sort of like, I'm going to put a little guitar thing here?
So we've known each other a long time. I met him in 2004. And so at this point, we've been having conversations about music that entire time. So one of the reasons I like working with him is that I can give him these kind of descriptions that are really bizarre. Like I can say like, I want it to sound like, you know, blue water in outer space, and he'll like understand what that means. And so with these tracks and with Good at Love was the first one that I asked him to finish, and I just gave him the vocal, piano, and the drum. It was like a little rhythm drum I had recorded on the demo.
Yeah.
And I came back like, you know, a week later, and he had just made this track that was so beautiful and made me cry. I had made him a playlist with some music that was inspiring to me, and
Who's on that?
Well, Nick Cave is on it.
Yeah.
Like Portishead was on it.
Right.
Broadcast. I mean, I could give it to you. I don't remember everything that was on it. Bjork, probably.
Yeah.
But he's able to understand like what things from each track would make sense with that and kind of make it have that mood that I was looking for. And he kind of did that with everything. I mean, he's very good at music and he's very good at recording.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Thank you.
All right, so you ready to wrap this up?
Yeah, we can wrap it up.
You feel good about it?
Yes.
All right. Good talking to you, Paige.
Good talking to you, Mark.
Thanks for listening to the Talkhouse Podcast, and thanks to Marc Maron and Paige Stark for chatting. If you liked what you heard, please follow Talkhouse on your favorite podcasting platform and check out all the good stuff at talkhouse.com. This episode was produced by Myron Kaplan, and the Talkhouse theme is composed and performed by The Range. See you next time.